They can come down. They must come down. Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. The year is 1987. On a sunny summer afternoon, June 12th of that year, the leader of the free world, President Ronald Reagan of the United States, stood on a platform by the Brandenburg Gate inside part of the Berlin Wall to cast his voice in resolving the political divide between the USSR and Eastern Europe on one side of the wall and the Western world. The Berlin Wall was built in 1961 to serve as a physical separation between West and East Berlin. With its high-guarded towers and anti-vehicle trenches and other forms of defenses, the wall's main purpose was to prevent persons from East Germany and the Eastern Bloc of Europe as far as the USSR to flee their countries seeking freedom in the West. Many people died between 1961 and 1989 trying to escape communism and totalitarian rule on the east of the Berlin Wall to enjoy and experience the economic and social freedom of the West. That afternoon, Mr. Reagan made an impassioned plea to the leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. The wall came down on November 9, 1989, leading to the unification of East and West Germany and major political changes in Eastern Europe. Today, I want us to talk about another wall, a wall that is tough, a wall that is problematic for many of us, a wall that bears a name of resistance and recurring stress, a wall that can and must come down. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience once your obedience is complete. 2 Corinthians 10 verses 4 to 6. What is this all about? Christians contend with stubborn issues in our lives, issues that plague us and hinder us from living victorious lives, issues that hold us back, issues that serve to erode and destroy our spiritual lives. We are made aware of these issues that are commonly called strongholds in the passage I just recited. One such message that opens our eyes to the severity of this struggle that all of us are engaged in is laid out for us at the end of a powerful letter to the church in Ephesus. I am about to recite to you a familiar passage, but this time I invite you to listen with fresh ears. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. Ephesians 6 verses 10 to 13. Paul wrote this great letter to a group of Christians who lived in an otherwise evil city overrun with idolatry and economic crimes. He is coming to the end of the letter. Surely he doesn't have any other major point to raise. By now he should be winding down. Oh no. What do we hear in this last segment of his letter? Well, he tells us that we need strength and power from the Lord. Why? To be able to stand against the destructive schemes of the devil. The devil? He did not sugarcoat his message, my friend. He was blunt and direct. He tells us that every one of us as Christians is engaged in a brutal and vicious war against 4 divisions of satanic military forces, and we had better be secured by the full armor of God, which we must wear if we are going to be victorious. Let me pause and return to the big piece of resistance or attack, that main feature of Satan's military strategy that he connivingly releases in the lives of Christians. Mind you, Satan is well aware of the fact that he is a defeated foe. See Colossians 2 and verse 15. And he understands that he is under the feet of Jesus, Ephesians 1 verses 18 to 23. But like a stubborn foe, he is not going down without a fight. He is willing to cause collateral damage in the lives of individual Christians. So he relentlessly sets us up with strongholds in our lives to mess us up. What are strongholds, you might ask? The simplest way to describe them is to say that strongholds are behavioral issues in our lives that constantly hold us back or trips us up. Strongholds are recurring sinful practices, thoughts, habits, and so forth that simply will not go away. Bits that simply stand as a terrorist or as a form of resistance in our lives. Some strongholds are inherited. Take, for example, your family has a history of alcoholism. You grew up seeing most persons in your family being alcoholics. At some point in time, you joined the club of drinkers, but then later you become a Christian. Since then, you've tried a bag of things to prevent you from drinking, and they only last temporarily, and you are back with the bottle. Some strongholds are socially acquired behaviors, bad behaviors that we pick up along the way from the social environment in which we grew up. One such stronghold is sexual immorality, and that has numerous divisions. There are men who we grow up with, men who practice sexual immorality of one kind or the other. One such stronghold in sexual immorality is the issue of promiscuity and pornography that are significantly found in modern societies. The pleasures of these activities are celebrated, and so it is not long before young boys are drawn into a den of sex-related activities. A man who grows up immersed in a culture of illicit sexual behaviors and practices now becomes a Christian. You would think that those behaviors will easily go away with his decision to be a Christian. Well, ask someone you know who struggle in these areas. They try 1,000,001 times to stop, but they find themselves going back repeatedly to these practices. The man is frustrated and disappointed in himself. This is another stronghold that appears to be unmovable, that will not come down. I can't believe it, but we have exhausted our time for today. But we have not done talking about this problem that many of us deal with. So if you will promise to return tomorrow, we will continue our conversation. I will meet you here. In the meantime, let me leave you with these words. Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Ephesians 6 and verse 10.